Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Weight loss. It needs to be fast and sustainable. Noom GLP-1 starts at just $149 and ships to your door in 7 days. Take it from Clevassier, who lost 35 pounds on Noom.
It's a psychological thing, too. Noom is teaching me the habits so I do not have to be on weight loss meds forever.
$149 GLP-1s? Now that's Noom smart. Get started at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. Individual results may vary. Not all customers will medically qualify for prescription medications. Compounded medications are not reviewed by the FDA for safety, efficacy, or quality.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels. This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
In Season 2, we explored Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Mist and Fury.
In our post-season content, we look forward to sharing listener feedback we received, as well as interviews with some exciting guests. You can also expect to hear some special listener-requested content.
The views expressed by the hosts and guests are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, self-harm, and depression will recur throughout the podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
Amy,
Yes.
do you know what happens next week?
Oh my gosh. It is season 3.
Season 3 comes out next week, and if you have completely forgotten what happens in Season 2,
Or if you never listened to season 2.
then just go and listen to it right now.
But if you don't,
Then you can listen to this episode where we are going to do a Season 2 recap and get you ready for all the things you need to remember for Season 3.
so we're not going to go into detail about everything we discussed. There were just too many good points.
We were just really good last season.
We were just really smart. But what we've done is we've selected clips that we think are a good representation of season 2, but also set you up for season 3. With that, let's get started.
Oh my God. Such great stuff coming.
In this first set of clips, we're going to listen to references to clothing and masks littered throughout Mist and Fury. If you'll recall, in Mist and Fury, Feyre dresses in spring court dresses that she really doesn't like and doesn't identify with. And what we see in Mist and Fury is a really interesting journey and progression that changes from disdain for clothing and masks to embodying a weapon. Feyre is learning that there is power in pretending or wearing a mask, as she's going to call it. It's ironic that the mask Tamlin wore long ago had eventually become a sign of weakness for Feyre. But the masks are personas that Rhysand wears become a sign of strength.
That's a very good one.
Because she calls them masks. So it's an interesting mirror.
Because, yeah, Tamlin's mask was never a mask. It was always a collar. Rhysand's masks are to be celebrated. Ooh, good job. Now we're going to move into Rhysand and him dressing Feyre. For fun, I'm going to make 2 arguments. And Amy and our listeners, you guys get to choose which one you like more. So imagine this as a choose-your-own literary analysis adventure. Option A. Rhys and Feyre are about to go to the Weavers, and Rhys is physically dressing Feyre. We understand what power and symbolism comes from the clothes you wear, and Rhysand is giving her the only power he is capable of, Illyrian leathers. He wants her to find that same strength that he finds in them. Option B. There is power in what you wear and what it represents. So with Rhysand dressing Farah and not letting her choose her clothes, not even choosing her own underwear, he is taking her powers when he is giving her a false sense of power. Rather than helping explain how to dress and encouraging her how to learn, he is dressing her, which is very similar to how you dress a child. He is patronizing her. This is not unlike Tamlin dressing Farah for the wedding and all the spring court gowns. This is Rhysand dressing Farah to an image he wishes her to be. She is an object to be dressed by both males. Farah and Nuala planned Farah's clothes together for the first time at the summer court. Farah has now learned from the Shadow Spy on how clothes don't have to just be a uniform, but also a weapon. Before, Farah's huntress clothing was a weapon, and her feminine clothing was there to represent safety. Now Farah's learning that the feminine clothing isn't just about safety, that feminine can also be dangerous as well.
So Rhys enters the scene and puts everyone to shame. Farah observes that, quote, the unruffled, fine clothes, another weapon, to hide just how skilled and powerful he was, to hide where he came from and what he loved, a weapon worth the cost of the magic he'd used to hide it, even if it put us at risk of being tracked. I think it says a lot about Farah's growth in this book so far that she observes clothing not as superficial and more than just a uniform. She's learned that clothing can be used as a weapon. And who did she learn that from? Rhysand.
Those were some great clips.
There were too many to choose from.
There were, and it is important for listeners to remember this and to understand because Farah takes on so many roles, particularly that of the High Lady in Wings and Ruin, and how she dresses. Really, you start to see where she's confident and not as confident.
Right. And you can tell by what she's wearing, not only what her inner turmoil might be or what her inner thoughts might be, but she also uses them and learns to use them as Rhys taught her to convey a message or convey an image that she wants people to see. And it becomes a weapon and it becomes a tool of manipulation for her.
And boy, will you see that in the first several episodes.
Real fast.
Real fast.
I think the underlying thread in this that is important also is how Farah is learning to emulate Rhys.
Mm-hmm.
Because she does it not only with her clothing, but in many other facets of her journey as High Lady.
Ooh, but she doesn't quite emulate Rhys. She ends up emulating someone else. And now I have to go and make the connections of the clothing.
Right now?
No, I'm just thinking, you asked what the white shirt represented. And now I'm wondering if it was Tamlin.
Oh.
You'll understand that when you listen to episode 6. In this next section, we're going to talk about Lucien, because we're going to talk about Lucien a lot in season 3. Our sentiments will change, but in the meantime, enjoy these clips.
Towards the end of this exchange, Tamlin also treats Lucien very, very poorly, to the extent that Farah thinks, quote, I didn't want to know what was happening in that room, what he'd, Tamlin, done to Lucien, what Lucien had even looked like to cause that pulse of power. I wonder if this is a moment that shifts Farah's view of Lucien. Has he gone from being a facilitator of abuse to an abusee? And does she have empathy or sympathy for him in this moment?
Let's come back to some Lucien development. Lucien is now starting to push back, get mad, and be vocal, all for Elaine. He's stepping up in a big way for Lucien, and we find out it's because he's mates with Elaine. Let's look at who's having the most instinctive moments in this scene. Lucien is reaching out to Elaine, and mind you, he was reaching out to Elaine even before Elaine became Fae, and Cassian is reaching out to Nesta, and Az is reaching out to Mor.
So as you can see, if you listen to season 2, you'll notice we took out a lot of our Lucien bashing.
I did notice, like, the clip. Please notice that the clips, not a single one was a bad thing that we said about Lucien, because boy, did we. Yeah,
we definitely bashed Lucien a lot in season 2, and thanks to Gabriel during our post-season, the voice actor who portrayed Lucien in the graphic audio series, we've changed our tune about Lucien. We're definitely more open-minded to what his experience is. And I think this idea that he might also be an abusee in Tamlin's court is really central to what we're going to encounter in the first few chapters of Wings and Ruin, and really influences the journey that he's about to embark on with Farah.
And you might even ask yourself, is Lucien abuser only Tamlin?
Ooh.
Or maybe someone else, too.
Excellent question. We also had to include the clip about Lucian and Elaine.
Because we're just going to leave it at that. You're going to find out real fast.
Yeah, let's not forget Lucian and Elaine are mates. We kind of said why we don't think Elaine's mates with anyone else in season 2. We're doing a mini episode on it. So we're leaving those thoughts alone. We're really going to focus on what is SJM putting on the page when it comes to Lucian and Elaine. And boy,
I'm so excited.
Some people are going to be happy.
Amy's not happy because when you read the literature, it's pretty clear.
It's so clear. You can't deny it, and it hurts my heart.
I'm thriving.
The next section we're going to listen to involves Tamlin and Tamlin's impact on Feyre and her journey. Now, we don't see a lot of Tamlin in the book. He kind of bookends Mist and Fury, but he's never really gone. Take a listen. So what we're seeing here is that Feyre's not taking ownership, right? She's not taking accountability for her actions. But you know why? Because this is straight out of Tamlin's playbook. He refuses to take accountability for his actions, so she's going to blame him. And he refuses to take accountability for his actions, so he blames her. Think about it when you're in a fight and you know you did something wrong, but someone else did something wrong as well. If you can just both come to a compromise and acknowledge that you both did something wrong, it's all going to be fine. But because the other person refuses, it's just easier for you to like force blame onto them than to acknowledge your own blame. What's interesting here is that Feyre fears the idea of being left behind more than she does going to the Court of Nightmares and the place that inspired Under the Mountain. Quote, "Beneath that mountain underground, yes, I'd forgotten that. Forgotten I'd see the court that Amarantha had modeled her own after, that I'd be trapped beneath the earth. I waited for the panic, the cold sweat. Neither came."
Oh my God. So what we're seeing here is that Feyre at this point is more traumatized by Tamlin's actions than the Underneath the Mountain experience itself. Because she starts to get panicky when she's like, when Rhys says, "Oh no, I can't get trapped. Not again." And then he clarifies. Right?
Yes, you're so right. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, that's so rough.
Talk about growth, though.
Yeah.
Like, this is an indication that Under the Mountain doesn't scare her as much. But to your point, the things that Tamlin did to Feyre still scare her. We see some interesting growth from Tamlin in this final chapter. Or is it growth? Is it change? I don't know. But it sets up the dynamics we'll see in Wings and Ruin. When Feyre remarks that Tamlin freed her from Rhysand, Tamlin counters that Feyre did it herself, something I don't think Tamlin would have ever been very happy about at the start of the novel, since it's his job to do the protecting.
I don't know if Tamlin believes this or he said that because he feels like he has to. Does Tamlin think that he played a part in her freedom? I mean, yes, probably. Tamlin is such a controversial figure because he is an abuser, but he's a character that is his own tragic character. He's a character that's reflected in others, and others are reflected in him. He is not one-dimensional, and he has layers, and we really go into that in season 2, and you can see with these clips where you have to do the analysis on him, and you really have to do the analysis on him for season 3, because what Feyre does to Tamlin in the Spring Court haunts her and the circumstances for the rest of the book.
Absolutely, and I think that not only do you have to analyze Tamlin himself, but you have to analyze Feyre's thought processes around Tamlin. Because the way that she has learned to interpret her experience and the way that she's learned to cope with that experience really is going to impact her interactions at the first part of the book and the personal journey she's now going to have to go on to evolve as a human, as a fae.
We really talk a lot in season 3 about a certain amount of accountability. Now, if you are a new listener and you've never listened to season 2, please go back, because you will hear that we do not excuse abuse here at all. We are not saying that Feyre deserved that in the slightest, but there are things that led Tamlin to react the way he did. Again, not excusing him. But the reason why I'm saying that is because in season 3, we analyze that even more. Not because we're choosing to, but again, the text makes us analyze that more. And the justifications that Tamlin has in his mind, are they good enough? No, but you have to understand them when doing a literary analysis.
And the last thing I want to say on this topic, if we go back to that last clip, just at the end of Mist and Fury, we see a side of Tamlin that we're not accustomed to based on the narrative that Feyre's been telling herself about Tamlin. And we see that kind of play through in Wings and Ruin. And we have to remind ourselves, Feyre's an unreliable narrator. And how much are we seeing a warped version of Tamlin and not truly understanding his intentions because Feyre is incapable of understanding those intentions?
It's almost like people should go back and listen to season 2 several more times. We're just trying to get more listens, more downloads. In this next section, we're going to discuss the similarities and differences between Rhys and Tamlin. If there's anything that you remember from season 2 is that those two are very, very similar. Let's check it out. I did not pick up how similar Rhys and Tamlin really are until we started critically reading, and then it was the most obvious glaring thing that Sarah J. Maas did is like, these are one and the same.
They are. They're different sides of the same coin, if even that. Maybe not. Maybe they're both the head side of a coin.
One side went to therapy, the other side did not. Your choice.
Yes.
We also see a different side of Rhys here. He ends up growling and yells at her. Quote, the raw command in his voice, the voice of the High Lord of the Night Court, had me acting on instinct. I mean, he's not too different from Tamlin here, throwing out that whole High Lord pulling rank business. Here's another question to think about. Rhys wants Feyre to be a weapon, to embrace this new side. But by asking her to be a weapon, he's asking Feyre to be a tool. It's like him asking her to be a thing rather than a person.
You know what that sounds like?
A Tamlin.
A Tamlin. He wants her to be possession for him to wield.
As we go on later in the book, we realize just how much Tamlin tries to make himself like Rhys. Even in the past 5 episodes, we keep calling out every single time that they're similar. What if it's Tamlin trying to emulate Rhys instead?
I think you're right. I've brought up before that at the end of the book, Tamlin comes to Hybern with a bandolier of Illyrian blades. He also has an inner circle adjacent. He has his own inner circle that mirrors Rhys's inner circle.
Which is what we also talked about in a past episode.
Exactly. Exactly. So I could totally see it.
It's like, and again, like Rhysand was almost like the older brother that he didn't hate or was abusive towards.
Right.
So it would make sense that he's just trying to be Rhysand. Now with Tamlin, it doesn't matter that his intent wasn't to harm her sisters. It doesn't matter that the King of Hybern did this without him knowing. Tamlin got the ball rolling. Now there are consequences for his actions. Is he going to be like Rhys and learn to own it? Or is he going to fester in his own perception of injustice? Find out next season in BookTok for BookTok, where we discuss A Court of Wing and Ruin 2023.
I do like that you bring up that point because you're right. There is a very distinct parallel here between what Rhys did under the mountain and what Tamlin's done that has brought about these events for Feyre's sisters. And you have to look at it the same way.
Yeah.
That intention doesn't matter. You made choices that have a result and a consequence. And it's going to cause trauma. And you have to accept that it caused someone else trauma.
And you can't be mad at that.
Right.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles. And that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
So I know that this is really hard for some of our listeners to listen to because we're really maybe hard on Reese and maybe the comparisons feel unjustified. But at the end of the day, something I said last season was this series is about two identical men and a woman who loves them both and why she picks one over the other because they make different choices.
They do.
They do. And Reese is capable of learning from his mistakes where Tamlin is maybe a little slower on the uptake.
I think part of the reason why we had to go so hard on Reese is because he completely changes by the end of the book. He grows and there is a lot of groundwork that is done and his change is hard earned and it's a character development that SJM worked for.
Yeah. I know we talked about it in the podcast, but I feel like people don't talk about it enough. I feel like the image a lot of the fandom has of Reese is of the End of Mist and Fury and Aka War Reese.
Yeah.
Instead of the Thorns and Roses and early Mist and Fury Reese. Those are two completely different males.
I mean, he's extremely flawed, but he also didn't discover a love that made him want to change. You know, should men change because they meet a woman? No, they should change because they're good. But that's not how it works. You know, a lot of times we are influenced to be better by the people and particularly partners that we choose to be with. And he's not the same Reese at the beginning of the book. And you have to call it out. We had to go hard on him. And mainly also, like, you know, we don't want people thinking that we went too easy on Reese.
No, never. Because we go hard on everybody.
And if you don't believe it, just wait. Feyre's going to get hers.
Feyre is getting her dues.
But we only ever go hard so that we can go soft.
True. Pleasure and pain. The one other thing I will say, I think the Reese and Tamlin comparison is important, and we're going to see it come up again in season 3. We can't forget that Feyre loved Tamlin at one point, and that she's capable of being attracted to both men because she connected with both men.
Yeah, and the Reese comparison won't be the only comparison to Tamlin.
Nope.
Dun, dun, dun.
So many comparisons to Tamlin you are not expecting.
From characters that you might have expected it, but other characters.
The next section delves a little bit more into Reese in depth. We look at the beginning who Reese is, and you'll hear some of our gripes about who that character was in the beginning. And then we look at the end and how Reese and Feyre had to evolve independently so that they could come together and heal. Feyre is going to observe that Rhysand wears many metaphorical masks, right? He's a different person depending on the situation. And he doesn't get to be mad that the mask he chose, which was his gray moral character mask, came across as a douche. He caused her trauma by making the choices that he made.
And it doesn't matter how much you're doing it for someone's greater good. No, you did the damage. Now you made the bed. Now you have to lie in it.
And, you want to know how you could have avoided this?
Maybe communication. I think it's really important for SJM to have included this. It shows that sexual trauma doesn't just magically disappear, that there are lasting impacts to a person's relationship with sex. And again, the fact that this is a man who's experiencing it is really impactful. Rhys needs to not finish in the same position he did with Amarantha, with her looking away from him, probably so that he didn't have to see her face. Rhys is seeking that connection with Feyre and is trying to heal his trauma.
And that goes back to something we said last week, where we discussed how sex between Feyre and Rhys is cleansing, where it had once been a means of forgetting between Feyre and Tamlin. I think this moment here shows that sex is cleansing and healing between Feyre and Rhys. It is not dominated by violence or passion, but love and tenderness.
I love how, like, the first clip we go so hard and the second clip is like, oh, by the way, sexual trauma.
Yeah.
It's real, which is how it went with us. But, this is all done through Feyre's interpretation.
Right.
In Feyre's eyes. And as Feyre got to know Rhys more, then we were able to understand his own trauma and what he went through.
Right. And I think that trauma is going to come back and play a huge role in Wings and Ruin.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did go pretty hard on Rhys in the beginning, and then we're like, oh, by the way, sexual trauma.
Ooh. But, I stand by our initial words of, doesn't matter what your goal is.
Yeah.
If you've traumatized someone, those are actions, and you have to own up to that.
Yeah.
And Rhys does.
Yes, where Tamlin didn't.
In this next section, we're going to talk about Nesta. In Mist and Fury, we see a lot more of her. But in Wings and Ruin, we're going to see a lot more of her. So here's just a little snippet of Nesta groundwork. I think one of the things in Nesta's storyline, not the biggest spoiler for Silver Flames, but, if you haven't read it, earmuffs. I think that Nesta struggles knowing that she's never been there for Feyre and that she wasn't a good sister. And I don't think Nesta ever fully owns it, to be honest. I think she recognizes, she's like, oh, I hate you that I did that. And I hate this. But I don't think she lets herself feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that now that everything Feyre did for them is like out there, right? Like they're living in a nice ass house. Like it's there. The most that Nesta can do is try to be there for Elaine because she was never there for Feyre.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I feel like in feeling that she's failed Feyre, instead of admitting her faults, making up for it through Elaine.
Yeah, she goes in way too hard on trying to be protective of Elaine.
Yep.
Because that means like Nesta had to live years knowing she wasn't the strong one.
Mm-hmm.
Which must have killed her.
Yeah, that would suck.
And now here she is in a household where she gets to be the strong one.
Yep, you're right.
Nesta, complicated character.
Very complicated. Nesta is such a vital character to Wings and Ruin, and I don't think we play up her role enough as a fandom in Wings and Ruin.
I thought you were about to say us. I'm like,
No,
I feel like we've done a great job so far, Amy.
No, as a fandom, because Nesta's book is Silver Flames.
Yeah.
But Wings and Ruin is kind of also Nesta's book.
It really is.
And as listeners, I hope you'll go on this journey with us where we really delve into her character and how misunderstood she is. And we are Team Nesta and not everybody is. But I hope that through the literary analysis, you can see how SJM is paving the groundwork for us to come to understand who Nesta is and her journey in Silver Flames.
I've heard this a lot from friends, listeners, random TikTokers that Nesta is just not someone that they vibed with. And I respect it. We're not here to change your opinion. Or are we? I don't know. But, we respect your opinion. But I would say that there's going to be moments, if you're not a Nesta fan, that might be difficult in season 3 because we go so hard on Feyre while we're so compassionate to Nesta. Please know and remember that we're just doing a lot of groundwork because where we end up at the end of Wings and Ruin and even towards the beginning of Silver Flames, it's all going to be so different.
Yep. This next clip is a perfect summary that we didn't even know we were making at the time of a theme that is central to Wings and Ruin and a lot of Feyre's decisions moving forward. I hope you enjoy. While we just verbally compared Rhys and Tamlin, what isn't being said by Feyre is that comparison. Week after week, Tamlin left and did not give Feyre what she needed, even when she asked for it. Tamlin did not care that Feyre was starving herself, or at least didn't say anything to the best of our knowledge. And so Feyre was able to leave Tamlin despite his trauma because he easily left her because of her trauma.
Whoa, that last sentence.
That I didn't write down, that I just
came up with.
It
really blew my mind. Just, wow. Good job.
Thanks.
I'm gazing at you proudly. Now for you to gaze at me proudly.
Yes.
Can we say that Rhys-San handled his initial treatment of Farah when she showed up the best way possible? Obviously not. He shook her, physically shook her while she was having suicidal thoughts. We can't say that he did his absolute best, but he did try. And what we're seeing is with Farah is that showing up, being there, and trying is half the battle. And this is showing that Farah and Rhys-San are equals in this sense, and that they're willing to fight for each other. If there's anything that you take away from this episode, highlight that clip, please, because hot damn, that ends up being such a big point for Farah and the way that she treats everyone around her. And good news, you're going to get that, in like the third episode or second episode?
Yeah, we touch on it real fast because it explains a lot about Farah and her decision making.
Yeah, it's Farah and loyalty in season 3.
I'm loyal to you, Farah, I promise.
I know, please don't hurt us. In this next clip, we're going to discuss bathing and what that represents in Mist and Fury. There's a lot of moments there, and in general, and with all of these books, bathing's going to be important. Take a listen. Unlike these other 2 times, Farah cleans herself, and it's a real clean. The other times, Amren cleans her, and she's never actually clean. The first time, she feels like she's still dirty because obviously she was covered in human hair and human fat. And then the second time, the book that they got from the summer court, it kept her clothes wet in the area that it was in. Here, Farah is taking her bathing into her own hands and isn't doing it by magic. She's regaining strength and direction. I think this is a clue as to how Farah's changed and how she's come to the conclusion of accepting Rhys faster.
I think it also shows a level of independence that Farah hasn't had in those previous 2 instances.
Oh, yeah. Here she is, bathing herself, dressing herself. She's a big girl.
She's an empowered woman. As Jack mentioned, bathing comes back. I wouldn't say with a vengeance, but it comes back as a theme in Wings and Ruin. And what that means can change depending on the circumstances, but there is always that baptismal sort of effect or intention around the scene. And we see that pretty early in Wings and Ruin, and I'm excited to explore all the different instances where we get to see this idea of cleansing.
Yeah, I think that season 3 is really going to explore the idea of, are your sins actually cleansed? And it's going to show when it's not.
Yeah, and it's mighty interesting.
Mighty impactful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
for sure. Our last section for this recap episode is an exploration of Farah's journey in Mist and Fury. One of the reasons why I think listeners love Mist and Fury so much is because Farah is a very complex character with a very intricate and very blatant progression and journey and character development. And what we see in these upcoming clips are themes seen in her development that are going to play out in Wings and Ruin. Farah is the opposite of what she sees as good. We see this in multiple different aspects of this prologue. To quote, "Maybe I'd always been broken and dark inside. Maybe someone who had been born whole and good would have put down the ash dagger. Quote, I knew the words she'd say, the prayer she'd recite. I knew I'd slaughter her."
The imagery of good and bad, that's what we're really seeing here, right? Good is she's a prayer. Bad, Farah is slaughtering. Farah has drawn a clear line and feels she is only good or bad. Her evolution in this book will show her progress and this concept of her being really, she thinks, bad and eventually good.
Or kind of a balance of both.
Yeah, she never really accepts good entirely. Farah is an infant compared to everyone else. Rhys is 500 years old, Tamlin's a little younger than that, but Farah really is a child. And even though she grew up fast, she doesn't have the years of life experience like those around her. And Rhys does not use that against her, and he doesn't treat it like a weakness. Tamlin and Lucien and Ianthe all did. Rather than a woman being compared to an animal, Farah is the animal, finally.
And just like she's embracing that animal, she's also embracing her darker side. She's become more than just a literal figment of darkness. We see that as she begins to hunt for Rhys. Quote, "And through that merciless, unyielding rage, I decided that if Rhys was not alive, if he was harmed beyond repair, I didn't care who they were and why they'd done it. They were all dead." These aren't just empty words for Farah. She acts on this when she finds Rhys and kills all of Hybern's men. Quote, and the blood on my hands felt different from what it had been like under the mountain. This blood, I savored. Blood for blood. Blood for every drop they'd spilled of his. This is such an intense progression from the Feyre who hated to kill, who felt guilty for her choices under the mountain at the start of Mist and Fury.
Reflecting on this season, one of my biggest critiques of Rhys is that he's never really given Feyre choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if it's all been training to make choices.
I certainly think so.
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. All I was going to say, now that I'm like really deep into Wings and Ruin, I would say yes. I would say this entire book was training for what comes next.
Yeah.
For Feyre to be able to make judgment calls without being told what to do.
And I think Feyre gets it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think she gets it. She understands it pretty quickly. And I think that, you know, a lot of that goes into her general forgiveness of him.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. Famous last words. Feyre gets it.
True.
One season later, Feyre doesn't get it. You know, Feyre ended so strong in Mist and Fury, and, you know, I think she had a better clarity, but we'll go into it that just some proximity with Tamlin messes her up. And I'm not going to say it's because of Tamlin. I'm going to say it's because of her own issues because of Tamlin, definitely, but things that she's not willing to address.
I can't say Feyre gets making good judgment calls, but I can say that I think that she knows she has to make judgment calls. If she makes the right ones, it's questionable.
She has to make judgment calls. We're 7 episodes in for season 3. Haven't seen a good judgment call yet.
Not yet. But Feyre goes on an amazing journey in Mist and Fury, and I think we take for granted the journey that she goes on in Wings and Ruin. And I'm really excited to dive into that.
I feel like we've said it several times already. I don't know if we've said it in this episode or in lives or in other things, but, you know, she's changing. And in season 3 is some of the most complex changes that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. And like we said in season 2, Feyre's 20.
Yeah.
Rhys is at least 25 times her age. And we take that for granted. We take for granted the maturity that has come through hardship in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, as High Lady, you probably shouldn't be making bad choices. But as a 20-year-old, it's guaranteed to happen.
Can we include 33 in that?
Sure.
You know, asking for a friend.
Can I phone a friend, please?
Can I phone a friend for that one? Still make mistakes there?
We all do. And it's painful as someone who's analyzing the literature to see these mistakes that Feyre is making. But it's so important that she goes through this process.
Yeah. And have faith in us, guys. Like, please, like for season 3, we only go hard on a character to show you how they've built themselves back up.
Right. And we have loved Feyre without fail for 2 seasons.
Too much. We loved her too much. It's time to fail.
We need to humble her a little bit. But we will come back around.
Yeah. So that was everything. Those are all the summary, the clips from season 2.
I mean, I highly recommend going back and listening to season 2. And if you haven't listened to season 1, listen to season 1.
Oh, yeah. If you haven't listened to season 1, you should probably
at least go back to the season 1 recap.
Yeah, that might be important too.
But we really, really love these characters. We really love Sarah J. Maas and what she's done with this world and these characters. And as a writer, I really admire this journey that we've been able to analyze and really look forward to sharing our work on season 3.
It's going to be the last season for ACOTAR.
I know.
Eventually, guys, we'll come back to the world, but it's really sad. I mean, kind of awesome and amazing where to think like a year ago we were reading these characters and here we are. Yeah. They're growing up.
They're growing up. They're moving on. Baby birds leaving the nest.
But I will never.
But we hope you stick around next week. First episode of season 3. We've got 21 episodes lined up for you. And it is going to be a doozy.
Stick around. Thank you for listening to this special episode of Book Talk for Book Talk. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform.
As we gear up for season 3, where we will deep dive into A Court of Wings and Ruin, we will continue to share between-season thoughts, interviews, and exclusive content.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a weekly mini episode.
If you are enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.